What's going on, guys? It's me, Billy, back again here on the YouTube channel, finally making another tutorial. I wanted to get back into it, but ever since I started the podcast, it's just been a bit difficult to manage all of that, but here we are, making another tutorial. I put up an Instagram story with the polls asking what you guys wanted. You guys wanted a tutorial, and then further on voted to do a pinning tutorial, which I kind of expected that to be the most requested, and that's what we're going to get into right here. So, pinning your mods is essentially creating your own MODCOM. MODCOM was this thing that Brickarms experimented with, which were totally modular guns. You could take off the barrels, the scopes, the stocks, the magazines, you know, and interchange them as they go. It's a really fun system, and these parts are great to incorporate into your own mods, but using just all MODCOM parts can make for some weird gaps, and as you can see, the stuff's kind of falling apart here because of its looseness. All right, so with that in mind, you can go ahead and try and make pinning your own mods. So this one's an example of my PP Bison, which has a pin right here on the magazine and a hole in the receiver so that, you know, it's fully removable. It swivels, which isn't, you know, intended, but that's just how it goes. It's also notable that pinning your mods like that, you could then glue them together, which will make it extra sturdy. So this barrel and the receiver right here, there's a pin here. You can't see it now that it's covered up and glued, but there's a pin here so that I can't just snap it off like so. An example of a part that I had previously pinned and glued to make sure it was extra sturdy is this stock here. It's a tiny tactical stock on this M4 build I was working on, but I don't like this stock anymore and I've been meaning to take it off. So for the sake of the video, I'm going to demonstrate it, and you see I had to twist off pretty hard, and there you go. That's that. You can see some of the glue residue, and that's how that goes. When pinning your mods and making your own interchangeable accessories similar to MODCOM, you could do stuff like this where you have a hole drilled out the back, and then bada bing bada boom, that stock fits in perfectly like that. This size that I used is actually the same exact size as a MODCOM stock, so I could take any normal MODCOM piece and it'll plug in right there like so, and it could also fall out. Perfect. All right, you could, if you have MODCOM parts, or for example you're making your own, even though this one is, for this example, it's all the MODCOM size, which is 1/16 of an inch, but you could do it in any size that you want, and you could have all the parts of the barrel and the stock and the magazine and the scope, just have all different holes, and then you're able to fully customize it just like that. Another example of that is this Draco, nice little pistol AK. We got a hole right here using regular MODCOM parts. Bada bing bada boom, super clean. Final example, instead of pinning your mods traditionally so that they'll be entirely flush, what you could do is use that tubing material that you're going to use to pin your item to make a barrel, exposed barrel, just like on this one. So as you can see from all those examples, pinning your mods has a lot of applications, such as trying to make something super sturdy or wanting the ability to interchange the parts easily. So how do you do it? Now, you can pick any sort of size of tubing material here, but I have a range of sizes. This is 1/64 of an inch. This is 3/64 of an inch. And this is 1/16 of an inch. And 1/16 of the inch is the exact same size that MODCOM uses. So if you're looking for stuff to be interchangeable with official Brickarms MODCOM parts, 1/16 of an inch is the way to go. Now typically when I'm making my own mods, I will not use 1/16 of an inch and will instead opt for the 1/64 because it's tinier and it makes it easier to drill the holes and make it all fit properly. You have a lot more room to work in the tolerance. Now you don't need any sort of fancy tubing material to do this. In fact, you can use paper clips of varying sizes, whatever works for you, whatever you can find. The only part you will need specific is typically a pin vise. Using a hand-powered drill or a Dremel can make it a bit more difficult and unwieldy. So I opt for a pin vise, gives you absolute control over that, and you can just spin it by hand as you go. Now, if you're using paper clips, for instance, and you don't know exactly what size you're working with, you could get, when I bought this pin vise, it came with a range of different tips, so you shouldn't have to worry about that. And just take like a Lego an old Lego brick, and you could just sort of drill on right through it. Just like that. And now that you have the hole, you could take your pinning material and find which size fits. And in this case, this is a 1/64th bit, so the 1/64th rod I have fits right through that. So with all that out of the way, we're going to do a simple mod with some scraps I have lying around. We're going to make this stock compatible with this one. So first off, we're just going to chop that stock off. I could have found one with a missing stock, but I figured, it's whatever. Make it easy. Make sure your back end is clean. You want to have these things as flush as possible. Let me look at the stock here. Oh, it's almost flat. Let me get my sandpaper. Use these sanding stick things. They're pretty nice. Alright, that's relatively good now. So with those both there, what I'm going to do is, using the 1/64th bit, I'm going to drill a hole just about right in the center there. Now, you don't want to go all the way without checking again, so you're going to want to line it up. You can use your thumb and index finger to try and hold the bit into place where you want it, and then drill in just a small tiny hole to see where it's lining up. And the way it lined up here, when I'm looking at it, it's going to be hard to see on the camera, but it's just a little right of the center. So what I'm going to want to do is try and work the drill hole just a little bit more to the left. The deeper you go in, the more difficult it will be to make these sort of adjustments. So you want to start off very slow when you're drilling the stuff to not have to scrap any pieces. Alright, and there we go. Now it's kind of worked over into the center. So what I'm going to do is line it up. You want to make sure the hole, as it's going in, is straight from all directions, on both axes. So don't just sit there and keep on drilling away. You might want to rotate your head and hands and keep checking back and forth that you're moving in a straight direction. Otherwise, when you try and plug it into the other end, whatever piece you're using, it'll be offset and not ideal. So there we go. That's just about enough inside the hole. So now what we can do is to make sure it lines up properly with the stock, because we wouldn't want it to sit like high like that, because the stock is a little bit lower than the charging handle. So we're going to want to look there and try and find a gauge of where, you know, the hole lines up, and just visualize that. So when you go to drill it here, you're not offset. So it's a bit lower than the middle in my case. So that's where I'm going to start. And I'm going to try my best to line up a hole right there. There we go. Let's see if that's good. Yep, that's dead on right there. So I'm going to continue drilling in. And you might want to just do a little bit at a time. You know, make sure you're all lined up. Perfect. And as that is right now, all we have to do is get the tubing in there. With the paper clip, it shouldn't be as hard to cut the stuff, especially based on the material, because usually they're going to be aluminum. So you can use sprue cutters for that sort of stuff, but this wire I'm using is much harder, and I use my Leatherman tool here, which I can just apply a bunch of force to, and bada bing, bada boom. I have my tiny rod. Yeah, perfect. You can just check that it fits inside the hole. Now what you could see here is that the rod is a bit longer than the two holes combined. So you could either do one of two things. You could drill out the holes deeper, or you could take your tubing here, your rod, and trim it down. Because my rod is so small already, God, I don't know how I didn't come into this episode expecting all these sexual innuendos, but we're here already, so I'm gonna go deeper. And now when I put it in, it'll be perfectly fine. So I already know that this fits into the hole in the stock. So what I'm gonna do is go ahead and get my glue out here. You could either dab it on your palette or something and then use a toothpick to apply it. When I'm using a pin like this, I just try and dab just a little bit that it'll sit on the top of the rod. And then there we go. Places right in just like that. And there we go. Now, if this was a mod I was typically doing, I wouldn't keep it modular. I would put more glue on the end, drop it right in the hole, seal it up, and that way this stock will never break off. But I've totally lost that to the abyss now. That's okay. It's a daily occurrence. Anyways, for further example here, what I'm going to do is turn this now into a MODCOM compatible stock. So a tip that you're going to want to keep in mind if you're ever going to use 1/16 or even a greater width hole, it's going to come out to be just about the same width as the receiver or the part you're using. So what you're going to want to do is you want to make first a through hole that will be perfectly in the center that you can then follow up with a bigger bit to drill out your larger size. You don't want to just go in right away with the 1/16 bit. So I'm just going to swap out my bit here. I'm now realizing I don't know where my 1/16 inch bit is. So the through hole's already there, which we were using for the 1/64 inch. And now we'll just take the 1/16. There we go. Now taking this 1/16 stock from MODCOM, boom. Really flush fit. Where's my... This is the custom M27 stock that I made MODCOM compatible. The rod here is a bit large, so it doesn't fit in entirely. I could always chop that off. And that's an example now of how to use a 1/16 or a larger diameter material. You're going to want to do multiple holes, take your time with the process, and it'll pay off. I think that just about all wraps up the video here. Let me know in the comments or DMs if you have any questions. I hope you enjoyed. Leave a like, subscribe, share, all that jazz. Please go ahead and check out the podcast. It's greatly appreciated. Have a good day. Love y'all. Peace.